Welcome to a world of electric vehicles.
It's a world that's changing faster than ever.
It really is. And today we're focusing on
Two of the biggest names in the game.
BYD and Tesla, right?
Exactly. They're both pushing the boundaries of what's possible with EVs, but they're doing it in very different ways.
And that's what makes this rivalry so fascinating to follow.
It's not just about who can build the best car anymore.
It's about who can create the best ecosystem, the best infrastructure, the best overall experience.
Exactly. And to get a handle on all this, we're going to be diving into two recent articles.
Yeah, BYD versus Tesla, a battle for EV dominance, and
Tesla versus BYD, EV sales, batteries, and self-driving race.
catchy titles, right?
They get right to the point.
Now, before we jump into the details,
It's worth noting
yeah,
that the EV landscape is already shifting in some pretty dramatic ways.
for example,
BYD is now outselling Tesla.
really,
Yeah, and not just by a little bit.
by a lot.
In the last quarter, they sold more than 3 times as many vehicles.
Wow, triple. I knew they were gaining ground, but I had no idea it was that significant.
It's a sign of just how quickly things are changing in this industry.
So what's driving BYD's success? Is it just about price?
Well, price is certainly a factor, but it's not the whole story.
Okay, so tell me more.
BYD has really tapped into the demand for affordable EVs in China.
Right, China is the world's largest EV market.
Exactly. They've also been very strategic in their expansion into other emerging markets.
Like Southeast Asia and Latin America, I've read.
Exactly. They're offering a wide range of vehicles that are well suited to those regions.
So it's a combination of affordability, accessibility, and...
A keen understanding of local market needs.
So where does that leave Tesla?
Well, Tesla is still very much a leader in innovation and technology.
They've always had that premium brand image, right?
Absolutely. And they continue to push the boundaries, especially with their self-driving ambitions.
But their vehicles are also significantly more expensive.
There's no denying that.
So are we seeing a fundamental shift in strategy here?
I think it's more about different approaches to the same goal,
Which is...
to accelerate the adoption of electric vehicles globally.
Okay, but they're going about it in very different ways.
Tesla is all about pushing the limits of technology, creating these cutting-edge, aspirational vehicles.
While BYD is more focused on practicality and making EVs accessible to the masses.
It's almost like a top-down versus bottom-up approach.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it's interesting to see how these different approaches are playing out in different markets,
Like we were saying, Tesla is still strong in North America and Europe.
where that luxury image resonates with buyers.
But BYD is making serious inroads in emerging markets where affordability is a key factor.
So both companies are finding success, but they're doing it by targeting different segments of the market.
It's a classic example of how different strategies can lead to success in a rapidly evolving industry.
And it's a reminder that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Exactly. What works for one company in one market might not work for another.
So we have these two companies with very different approaches, but they're both clearly committed to pushing the EV revolution forward.
And that's ultimately what matters.
But it's going to be a fascinating battle to watch.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see how it all unfolds.
Now, both these companies are doing more than just building cars.
Oh, yeah.
They're also becoming major players in battery production, right?
Absolutely. Controlling the battery supply chain is becoming increasingly crucial in the EV market.
Why is that?
Well, for one thing, it gives them more control over costs,
Makes sense.
but it's also about shaping the future of energy.
How so?
Imagine a world where electric vehicles can be used as giant batteries on wheels,
Interesting.
storing energy from renewable sources,
Like solar and wind power.
and then feeding it back to the grid when needed.
So EVs become part of a larger energy ecosystem.
Exactly. Both BYD and Tesla are investing heavily in this vision.
That's pretty incredible when you think about it. It goes way beyond just building cars.
It does. It's about creating a more sustainable and resilient energy future.
And when it comes to batteries, BYD has been making waves with their Blade battery.
It's definitely a game changer.
What makes it so special?
Well, it's safer, it's more durable, and it's more cost-effective to produce.
Those are some pretty impressive claims.
And they're backed up by real-world data. The Blade battery uses lithium iron phosphate chemistry, which is inherently less prone to overheating.
So it's a safer option for EVs.
Exactly. Plus, it has a longer lifespan, which means you can get more miles out of your battery before needing to replace it.
And it's cheaper to produce.
That's right. All of which gives BYD a significant competitive advantage.
It sounds like they've really hit on something special with this blade battery.
They have,
Hmm.
and it'll be interesting to see how Tesla responds.
So we've got this battery revolution happening alongside the EV revolution,
It's all connected.
and both BYD and Tesla are right at the center of it.
Driving innovation, pushing the boundaries, and shaping the future of transportation and energy.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already. We've talked about sales figures, different approaches to technology, and the importance of the Chinese market.
But there's still so much more to unpack.
Like, there are different approaches to self-driving.
And the potential wildcards that could disrupt the entire EV landscape.
We'll explore all that when we come back in part 2 of our deep dive.
So don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back after a short break. So before the break, we were really getting into BYD's dominance in China.
And how they're using that as a springboard to expand globally.
It's fascinating to see how different governments are supporting or not supporting this whole EV transition.
Absolutely. Some are all in, others are dragging their feet.
And that can have a huge impact on which companies succeed.
No doubt about it.
Now, one of the things we touched on before the break was BYD's blade battery.
Oh, yeah. That's one of their secret weapons, for sure.
And it sounds like it's just the tip of the iceberg.
You know, there are rumors swirling about a next-generation blade battery.
Really? What have you heard?
Well, word on the street is it'll offer even longer range.
That's what everyone wants, right? To be able to drive further without worrying about running out of juice.
Exactly. Range anxiety is a real thing for a lot of people.
It's one of the biggest barriers holding people back from making the switch to electric.
And then on top of longer range, they're also saying it'll have even faster charging times.
So, like, how fast are we talking?
Some are saying it could be as quick as filling up a gas tank.
Whoa, now that would be a game changer.
It would completely eliminate one of the biggest objections to EVs.
People are so used to the convenience of just pulling up to a gas station and being done in 5 minutes.
Exactly. If you could charge your EV that quickly,
It would make a huge difference.
for sure, mass adoption would skyrocket.
Now, of course, Tesla's not just sitting around twiddling their thumbs, right?
Oh, they're definitely in the game.
They've been making a lot of noise about their 4680 battery cells.
Those are the ones they're claiming will revolutionize EV performance.
Yeah, higher energy density, longer range, all that good stuff.
Yeah. And they're supposed to be cheaper to produce, too.
But didn't they have some trouble getting those cells into mass production?
They did, yeah. There were some hiccups along the way.
Which kind of put them behind schedule?
A bit, yeah. But they're working through it.
So it's kind of a race now
A battery
to
race.
see who can get the best technology to market first.
And at scale.
Exactly. It's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out.
And it's not just about the batteries themselves, you know.
It's about the whole ecosystem around them.
The charging infrastructure, the supply chains, all of that.
Okay, so we've got this battery battle brewing.
And then you've got the whole self-driving showdown happening at the same time.
Right, that's where Tesla has really made a name for themselves.
They've been pushing the boundaries of autonomous driving for years.
And they're still the leader in that space.
Yeah, their autopilot and full self-driving systems are pretty impressive.
But there are some concerns, right?
There are, yeah. Some people are worried about the safety of these systems.
And whether they're truly ready for prime time.
And there have been some high-profile accidents that have raised questions.
And then you've got the regulatory hurdles.
Governments are still figuring out how to regulate these self-driving cars.
It's a whole new world, really.
It is, yeah, and it's moving faster than the regulations can keep up.
But in the meantime, BYD is taking a different approach, right?
Yeah, they're more focused on driver assist features.
Things that make driving safer and easier today.
Exactly, like adaptive cruise control, lane keeping assist, automatic emergency braking.
So less about taking over completely, more about providing a helping hand.
Right, kind of like a co-pilot that's always there to assist.
Which, honestly, for a lot of people is probably more appealing right now.
I think so too. It feels less intimidating.
Like, yeah, I'm not ready to hand over the wheel entirely.
But I'd love some help with the more tedious parts of driving.
Exactly. Make my commute a little less stressful.
Exactly. So BYD is focusing on these more practical applications of technology.
While Tesla is still pushing towards that fully autonomous future.
And it'll be interesting to see which approach ultimately wins out.
Or maybe they'll both find success in their own ways.
It's possible. They're targeting different segments of the market, after all.
So we've got these two very different companies with very different philosophies.
But they're both pushing the boundaries of what's possible with electric vehicles.
And they're both forcing the entire industry to innovate.
Which is great news for consumers.
More choices, better technology, and hopefully lower prices down the road.
Exactly. It's an exciting time to be following this industry.
It really is. But it's also a complex and rapidly changing landscape.
There are so many factors at play.
And it can be hard to predict what the future holds.
So in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to try to do just that.
We're going to explore some of the potential wild cards that could disrupt this whole EV revolution.
And we'll try to answer the big question.
Which company, BYD or Tesla, is better positioned for the future?
Stay tuned.
All right, we're back and ready to wrap up our EV deep dive.
It's been quite a ride, hasn't it?
It has. We've talked about BYD's incredible rise, Tesla's relentless innovation.
And how the whole world seems to be shifting towards electric.
But as we look ahead,
Things get a little murky.
yeah, there are a lot of potential wild cards out there.
Things that could shake up this whole EV landscape.
So let's dive into some of those wild cards, shall we?
Sounds good.
All right, so first up, what about the rise of new competition? We've been focusing on BYD and Tesla.
But they're not the only ones in the game anymore.
Not even close,
You've
right?
got all these legacy automakers like Volkswagen, Toyota,
They're finally starting to take EV seriously.
pumping billions into research and development.
Yeah, they're playing catch up, but they've got a lot of resources.
And then you've got these ambitious startups too.
Like Rivian, Lucid, all these companies with fresh ideas.
Yeah, they're not afraid to challenge the status quo.
So what does this mean for BYD and Tesla?
Well, it means they can't afford to rest on their laurels.
They've got to keep innovating.
Staying ahead of the curve.
Otherwise, they risk getting left behind.
Absolutely. It's a constant race in this industry.
Okay, so new competition is one wild card.
What else?
What about government policies?
Yes, the political landscape.
It can change so quickly.
One minute you've got subsidies and tax breaks,
The next minute, they're gone.
or new tariffs pop up out of nowhere,
It can be a real roller coaster for these companies
especially when you're operating in multiple countries.
with different rules and regulations.
It adds a whole layer of complexity.
All right, so we've got new competition, shifting government policies.
What else could throw a wrench in the works?
Well, what about the whole infrastructure thing?
Yes, the charging network.
It's kind of the Achilles heel of the EV revolution, isn't it?
In a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, you can have the most amazing EV in the world.
But if you can't find a place to charge it,
It's basically useless.
exactly. So building out that charging infrastructure is crucial.
It's got to be convenient, reliable, and accessible.
And that's a huge undertaking.
It requires collaboration between governments, private companies, all sorts of stakeholders.
So it's not just about the cars themselves.
It's about the whole ecosystem that supports them.
Okay, so we've got new competition, shifting government policies, the need for a robust charging network.
Any other wild cards we should be thinking about?
Well, what about battery technology?
Yes, the heart of the EV.
We've talked about BYD's Blade battery and Tesla's 4680 cells.
But who knows what breakthroughs are just around the corner?
Yeah, some new chemistry could emerge.
Or a completely different way of storing energy.
Something we haven't even thought of yet.
Exactly. That's the beauty of innovation.
It's always pushing the boundaries.
So yeah, battery technology is definitely a wild card.
It could completely disrupt the current balance of power.
For sure.
Okay, so we've got all these wild cards swirling around.
But amidst all this uncertainty,
Is there anything we can say for sure about the future of EVs?
I think one thing is clear. EVs are here to stay.
This is not a fad.
Not at all. This is a fundamental shift in the automotive industry,
And it's only going to accelerate in the coming years.
driven by consumer demand, government regulations.
And the relentless pursuit of a more sustainable future.
Exactly. So even with all these wild cards,
The big picture is clear. EVs are the future of transportation.
absolutely. Now the question is,
Which companies will lead the way?
that's the billion-dollar question.
BYD and Tesla are the front runners right now.
But as we've seen,
There are a lot of challengers snapping at their heels.
and the landscape is constantly shifting.
So it's impossible to say for sure who will come out on top.
But one thing is for certain. It's going to be an exciting ride.
Well said. And on that note,
We've reached the end of our deep dive.
we hope you've enjoyed this exploration of the EV revolution.
We've covered a lot of ground.
But as always,
There's so much more to learn.
so we encourage you to keep digging.
Stay curious.
And most importantly,
Drive towards a brighter future.
thanks for listening.